Hi there, everybody. Monday on Astral Oracles. I'm very happy to be with you, and you may infer from the background that I'm back inside in Denmark. I sprung my foot walking around in the wilderness in Spain, and I'm still limping quite a bit, but I got out of it. I got out of it alive with my luggage, so that was awesome, and have been going through like these amazing emotional purges and openings while I was down there and lately. So I hope I can kind of steal myself from crying. There's been this kind of weird sense of heart surrender, and it's been very connected to the Christ and the Easter season. So a part of this whole channeling experience and how I essentially connect to these immortal beings is from this space of this altered state, which we know as the Akashic field, the ethers of the fifth dimension. And that is a place where all time and space is present at once, as accessible to experience. And so, what I've been experiencing is an intensification after a period of feeling quite disconnected to the channeling practice, an intensification of this exact kind of leap quality that connects to these other spaces in time and space. And if you've had the mystical intuitive experience that we are all one, you know that it is essentially an unspeakable experience, a realization that lies beyond words. But I'll try to go into some detail, chop it up in words here, because that's what we do at the Astral Oracles. And thank you for being here, sharing something, liking all that thing, your support, guys. But notice that this opening of things, this opening of the time space, the ethers, the fifth dimension, this space where all existence, all experience is present, to be accessed at once. This is the universal being of the human oversoul. And this is also what we call the enlightened one or the anointed one. So the Messiah or the Buddha, right? In reverse order. These ideas of the illuminated being that has made itself aware. And so I've been having these memories of sitting at the master's feet, um, somewhere on the banks of the Gennesaret, and you're just listening to that movement of breath and spirit coming through him, and how that somehow restores the entire fabric of time space, right? The wonders and the parables and everything like that's so little of it. It's like the way that breath and spirit, the divine itself, moves into the world and sets everything right. And it's as if from like this moment of sublime acceptance of restoration, like this place of being in his presence, there's something where all other incarnational experience, like all the troubles that we pass through and all our incarnations from that moment, is made right and set right, because that's essentially what we came here to do, was to restore that love. And then slightly horrifically, I've then been having, connecting to the other spaces, and which is I've been having like this kind of weird intuition that I should go to Auschwitz, and that's of course because we are all run right. So there's this millions of people who all make up like that sublime, unified, dignified um, body of significance that an individual human life is. That is like your life and my life and everybody's life, like that intact world of connected experience, um, that's preyed upon, that's ripped out of, that's like committed the greatest atrocity that you can possibly, which is to murder the innocent simply for them being them, like for the idea that there's something inherently wrong with them. And that's the tragedy of Auschwitz, like, right, like murdering children who have done nothing but commit the crime of existing, is like so horrific. And like that, the same way that we're looking out through all other human eyes, like we're looking out through that moment where the master is setting everything right, there's also that moment of the complete horror and this disjointed element of our experience. And of course the question is like, how can we sort of redeem ourselves in our own eyes? Like, how can we set the human endeavor right after we like have raised that indictment against ourselves? Like, how can we do that towards other human beings? And of course, it's not unique, like in the story of human atrocities. Though it is sort of a strange marker, right? Because it is such a dark, condensed moment. So those have been sort of the emotional openings I've been experiencing, sort of being ripped through these, and really going through like strange universal purgings where the tears welling up and the things moving through were more than essentially grief or something. They were like tears of surrender. Like, it was a very serene state, and I've felt kind of blissed out these past few days, which is always nice, right? But of course, I've also been reading the Gospels and Acts and stuff. So like that idea that when when the Holy Ghost descends on the apostles and people think they've been drinking, but they're just animated by Holy Spirit speaking in tongues. So that's for the light language, right? That it seems that this it's always strange. You probably know this from your own spiritual journey, right? Like going through these peaks and valleys, and then you kind of get longer or shorter glimpses of something, and you feel you are moved into these spaces of connection. And then often there are then greater states of disconnection to comprehend and embody. And then of course you're sort of reminded, like, okay, that's why we do it. It's because we're here to sort of redeem the human soul. And how we redeem the human soul is that we make it aware of its own nature as itself. And that's why I am not only here to riff about what's going on for me in a sort of hopefully generally relevant way, but also to connect to Metatron, because it is still officially Easter here. Holy Monday, who wouldn't like more of those? And of course, it is the feast of the moon, also in the pagan tradition that goes on here in the springtime. And you may know that 325 in the Council of Nicaea, Easter was set in accordance with the full moon, so the first Sunday after the first full moon of the spring equinox is when Easter Sunday will fall. And it is connected to this strange idea of incarnation, because that was, of course, you may know, like I grew up in a Christian context. Like, my parents are ministers and stuff, so it was like that was always my strange inquiry in trying to understand, like, what is it with this stuff, like what is it with Christianity and the resurrection of the flesh, um, because I can kind of get the whole transcendental vision. I can kind of get the Shiva and Kali idea that, oh, Shiva is this sublime point of concentrated consciousness, and Kali is the great deep manifestation of everything that springs from that, the great unconscious void that sort of gives rise to this one-pointed consciousness, and then the one-pointed consciousness that then sort of again permeates out into the void, like that. That's that beautiful dance of that's expressed in Indian cosmology, like that resonates a lot with me. But like the weird idea that, oh, it's like something, somewhere in the future, people will rise up and kind of look like themselves, and they'll have their bodies, but they'll be in heaven and they'll be saved. Like, what is that doctrine? It is so weird for me to try to make sense of, and I really try to make sense of these things. Um, And I think it speaks to a deep um, intuition somehow, that what's happening is not only transcendence. It's not only the idea that, the world is, we're sort of moving into to higher states of non-physical being more or less pure awareness of more like heavenly celestial beings. But what's happening is that spirit is permeating the world, the that the light is reaching the world, and it's coming out through the darkness, um and the darkness can't reach it or hold it or contain it, so it's coming through. And that idea that we are being then sanctified, and I know it's something I return to a lot with the Gospels, right? The idea that they can't really recognize Christ after the resurrection, and he seems to have like this ability to sort of unveil himself, like decloak himself, right? Which is a weird quality, that it seems like his body has attained some kind of effervescence. And you may also know from, I know it from Crowley, for instance, like that's of course, like one of the magic tricks of learning to exert your will is to be able to also make yourself invisible, appear and disappear to people. So this idea of the light body, the sanctified flesh, I find um, incredibly interesting, and also I think somehow slightly unsettling. And I'd love to speak to Archangel Metatron about what is it with this incarnational experience? What is it with our bodies? How does the physical body fit into to ascension? Um, and that, of course, also speaks to the fact that I very much feel, in the 10 days where I don't know, I lost 8 kilos and I sprained my foot, and I was kind of scared that I, might get dehydrated and not be able to make it back and stuff. And in a lot of pain, but that I can again also became, of course, very instrumental in the sort of helpful, instructive opening that I felt also belonged to it, and it really was exquisitely beautiful out there, along with a lot of storks and cute little bunny rabbits. So what's not to like? I hope you've had some happy holidays and you're also feeling the light flood into your life out there. Much love, guys. Speaking to you presently with a radiance of light and love, the Archangel Metatron connects to you in this infinite space. We are connecting. Notice these contradictions that you so skillfully weave together in your lives. You are infinite. You are finite within it. All you enter into is a framework that limits you. And it is within this framework that the greater reality of delimitation is underscored. So you are a part of the body of God in this way. You are a part of the great, sublime, and universal being, of the great billion trillion sets of eyes that look out and marvel at its own creation. You are an organic extension of this. Your shape is the shape of the divine. It shapes itself alongside you. And so in these instruments, these sacred compasses of navigation within the great and radiant vibrancy of the universe, of potential source energy. You are these shape creators. You are these holy molds that give rise to existence. Existence. Our friend here was sharing another revelation, a vision shown to him. The one-pointed consciousness, retreating itself from the world, seated on high, concentrated in light, expressed in the figure, the name and the force of Shiva. This one-pointed light, where would it go? Where would it point its beams, if not into a shape? So know this as sunlight strikes the ice caps and glaciers of the high mountaintops and springs forward, formlessness rivers that then move through the landscape, carving out shapes, giving rise to then new lakes, new puddles, new potential pools of chaos. Therein new shapes and forms of life arising and taking order. So this dance is constantly progressing. And something new, something new, something new here our friend is asking for, his consciousness being thirsty for revelation. And yet what I am doing is I'm only painting an age-old mystery within words and frames that may appeal and connect to those who hear them. And there then the infinite world, the seed of the divine word, is planted again and again is offered to sprout and grow and connect to the light. And that is you, dear friend. You are this growth, this outcropping, taking shape. And as you turn yourself as the sunflower towards the light, changing these light sources, you often forget how tall you are growing, how deep your roots are also connecting, how many beautiful seeds you will give off in that spiral pattern of life in your center once you are through chasing the sun. So notice that your lives, in their brief and fleeting pursuits, are precious, like that turning and chasing of the sunflower towards and around with the sun as it grows outwards, upwards, and downwards simultaneously. For the sunflower, this was a thirsty chase for warmth, heat, life, the loving abundance that the sun, your star, gives off to all creatures it shines upon. But for the sunflower's surroundings, there is a harvest being brought forward. There is nourishment. There is the aesthetic appreciation of that beautiful plant as its life force unfolds and flows on. So what you are learning to do with this ascension process that may seem very mystical is that you perceive yourself more as all these things that the sunflower is doing, rather than identify with the thirsting, longing chase for the light, because you are following the light quite automatically. It is a deep instinct within you. And once you have set yourself to that tune, know that the sun will come up, spirit will connect. Sometimes it will be radiant and visible. Sometimes it will be clouded and occluded. But the light is always there, and you are always intuitively turning yourself towards it. But notice again and appreciate all these things that come forward around it in your life. What you are effortlessly creating, the great processes you are embedded in and that you are contributing to by being and by doing the thing, the process, by processing you, the process, the vibrancy that plays out in your harmonizing with the light. That be your guiding principle. And so, speaking of the resurrection, speaking of the idea our friend here was, that on that day where everything will know itself as itself, that then the bodies of the righteous will also rise. What is important and understood here is that you becoming yourselves and you becoming immortal is not done as an escape from this physical world, but it is done by the expansion of your vehicle to encompass more physical creation, more of potential, more of consciousness, and more of manifest matter, the phenomenon, interwoven in their dance. And so this is what your master is showing you. It is within him he reveals the capacity within you, the universal being, to hold everything, the totality of total love, acceptance, the caress of existence, is as it allows you to know that you are fully seen, held, understood, and supported, acknowledged and accepted. And to hold that moment of unbearable pressure, of the torment of being, to hold them both within a full acceptance, a full knowing that the body expands, it grows wide, and with time it becomes universal, expansive, encompassing. So what he has also been realizing, our dear friend here, is that he, for the past years, have greatly appreciated spending his time in the company of immortals, these immortal beings, these great collective consciousnesses, whose beings merge with the wisdom of the universal all and become a frequency embedded in the very energetic textures, the loving, supportive tapestries that surround this precious finitude, this palace of being that you live within, princely, exploring its rooms and the gardens of paradise that you were planted in. Therefore, from this infinite home where we hold you true, we greet you, and we hope you will see us here. We are here with you. I, on behalf of the heavenly hierarchies, the great hosts of heaven, the angels, the great architect of all creation, and all his radiant manifestations, I, the Archangel Metatron, I bid you farewell in blessed, sacred love. Goodbye. Always makes me happy to connect to the heavens. Thank you for being along on the journey, guys. Much love out there.